Can a Runeterra player guess how good Hearthstone legendaries are? Let's find out.
2-mana 1/4 Shaman card, Bolner Hammerbeak. After you play a Battlecry minion, repeat the first Battlecry played this turn. Is that just a brand?
So brand doubles your Battlecries. This repeats a Battlecry for the first Battlecry you played this turn.
Got it. Okay, that's actually a lot harder to activate than brand then, because brand is just on the board and will activate anything. And for this, you have to first play a Battlecry and then you start basically doubling that with other Battlecries.
I'm going to say this just because it might not be entirely obvious. This card will copy the first Battlecry minion you play. If you play a Battlecry minion, it will copy the first Battlecry.
On turn 3, I play a 1-mana card with a Battlecry, and then I play a 2-mana card with a Battlecry, and that 2-mana card will copy the 1-mana card Battlecry, right?
Bolner will copy the Battlecry, not the 2-mana card.
I would literally have to play the game to really understand what this card can do, but it seems really, really powerful. Just because I know what kind of degenerate stuff brand could do, this seems like it would activate even more combos. I think this card is very good because it's only 2 mana, so it's easy to just drop it on the field and get some value.
It can be very good. How many Battlecries do you really need for this card to be worth putting into your deck? Because you have to remember that every single card you put into your deck is one card. So you're drawing this card, you have to play it, then you have to have other Battlecry minions for this to be good. With particular Battlecries, it can be very strong, but it hasn't been like meta breaking at all. It's a good card. You put it into very particular decks, but it's not like the strongest card they've ever released. Your analysis was probably on point with a lot of people. When we first saw this card, we thought it was going to be the best card of the set.
Yeah, when I look at this card, it'd be like, okay, at some point, this card's going to break the game. I don't know what kind of Battlecry cards you need for it, but at some point, this will be the best card in the game and do some degenerate combo.
If you don't remember, Frenzy is it takes damage but survives.
That's a 4-mana 1/6 Rush Frenzy, deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. So that's 1 damage to everything, unless you buff it up. And this is a neutral card.
This is a neutral card, yeah.
I think this card's pretty good, but only in classes that can maybe increase the health. I remember a card in Warrior. I forgot the name. It was like a 2-mana 2/2, and then you pinged something and gave it +2 attack or something. I feel like this would be pretty good with that.
You're right. This card was really, really good at board clearing. There was a buff card called Apotheosis, which gave a minion, I think it was like +2 attack and +3 and lifesteal. So you could play this, attack a minion, deal damage to the entire board, and fully heal your hero up. Paladin really likes this card because there's a lot of buffs for this. It was just basically used as like a really good tempo swing.
Ah, okay. So with the lifesteal, it's Blade Master Reno Jackson. I see.
Yeah.
Scab's Cutter Butter. That's a great name. 4-mana 3/3 combo. The next 2 cards you play this turn cost 3 less. 4-mana 3/3 doesn't seem great in stats, but when has Rogue ever cared about that? This seems pretty damn good. Like, Rogue loves this kind of effect of discounting a card. And I remember the Octobot from last time. So discounting 2 cards for 3, that seems pretty good, I guess. I'm gonna say this is a good card.
I'm gonna give you context here. When this card was first released, I have never seen a card in a very long time where people thought this was gonna be the most broken card of all time. This card is probably niche to unplayable sometimes.
Oh, no.
4 mana, you virtually get a free 3/3 and you get 2 extra mana for the card, right? But you have to activate this card, so you're spending another card to get the combo. And then you need 2 other cards that at most need to be like 3 mana to basically get the full value from this, which often just is not good enough. Why would you put a card in your deck that is just 4 mana to discount potential 2 cards that you don't even need discounted?
Shaman again. 5-mana 4/5. On your turn, your hero has +2 attack and Wind Fury. That's like the weapon that Shaman has, right? Doomhammer?
Yeah, Doomhammer, yep.
It's that effect on a minion. Interesting. I'm gonna say that this is a pretty good card. When I played Doomhammer was not really like it was played, the Shaman spell that gave your hero +3 attack or something. I think that got nerfed at one point. In Runeterra at least, whenever you put like an effect on a card or you make like a bad spell and then you have a minion that creates that bad spell, it's only like very good. So I'm gonna say that putting a Doomhammer on a minion is gonna be pretty good.
Just as a card, like a 5-mana 4/5 isn't horrible, but because the effect is active immediately, you're getting 4 damage from your hero. It gets better with a weapon that you have equipped already, right? So if you play this on turn 5, you can attack twice with a weapon that you have equipped, which is really powerful. It's a good way to burn out your opponent. It's a good way to trade on board with keeping a minion. This has what I like to call pseudo taunt. You need to kill this, otherwise you're probably gonna lose the game. This has to die, otherwise the continuous value that Shaman's gonna get from this is too good. This card wasn't like meta breaking, but it was a good card.
2/1. Battlecry summon 2 random 5-cost minions. Secretly pick one that dies when it takes damage. If you summon a 5-cost minion and it has like a death rattle, does it still get that effect if you pick it to be the fake one?
Yes, it does.
Oh man, this seems really good to me, even though it's a 2/1. I don't know. Just the fact that you're summoning 2 random 5-cost minions that are on average gonna be like 5/5s. If I can get 2 of them, and even if one is fake, you can still get like their value. I'm gonna say this is a very good card.
I don't know what the balance team was thinking me when they made it a 5 mana, because it was a 5 mana 2/1, and you arguably got 10, 11 in stats from the other two minions. One of them dies immediately when it takes damage, right? But you still have to deal damage to it, and there's a potential for a bonus effect with both of those minions that you summon. For instance, the card I just showed you, Inara, you could summon Inara from Janus and have that effect with Road.
Even if it's fake. Ah, okay, I see.
This card was so powerful when it was released. They nerfed it to 6 mana eventually, but this card saw continuous play in a lot of Road decks because it just turned out at 5 mana to summon that much stats was pretty good.
Moonfang, 5 mana 6/3 beast, can only take 1 damage at a time. Wow. Okay. It's a neutral. So I think if this card is good, it would have to depend on the beast deck, because taking 1 damage at a time, I feel like there's going to be quite a few pings in Hearthstone. So I think it's going to fully depend if there is some kind of beast support deck like Druid or Hunter that can support this and maybe buff it up or something. So as a standalone card, as just a mini, you put it in your deck for the effect. I don't think that happens.
The thing that you didn't even consider is that you can buff this card, and some decks just don't have an ability to actually deal with this. You can heal it, so you continuously just keep having this minion on board. Problem with this is that it's a 5 mana 6/3 do nothing. Sometimes that's just not good enough, and it was used in like a top end of like Face Hunter sometimes. Average to niche is what I would put it at.
This is one of the coolest cards I've seen though. Mozaki Master Duelist. 5 mana 3/8. After you cast a spell, gain spell damage +1 in Mage. I don't really need to look at this because, again, I'm just gonna bring up my my Vietnam PSD callbacks, flashbacks from Freeze Mage, and I would say that in Freeze Mage this card would be insane. The Vietnam flashback for me playing as Freeze Mage with my Beast Hunter was not a good time. I think this card is very strong.
Flop between unplayable to good, and when this card was good, it would just kill you on like turn 7. I think I showed it to you last time. Remember in Counterslow? Yeah. You would put this in a deck that is like 29 other spells. When you draw this, you would just kill your opponent. Obviously, it wasn't like the best deck in the format ever. People wanted this card nerfed at some point. The deck win rate wasn't super great. The way a quest line works is that you start with it in your hand. Each quest line, so a quest line's like incremented, right? So you do the first one, the second one unlocks, and then the third one will unlock, and then you get a final reward.
That's a menu you have to play. For the Hunter quest line, you have to deal damage with 2 spells, and then the reward is your hero power can target minions. Okay, it seems not great. I don't know what kind of spells Hunter has right now, but I figure that's going to be pretty easy to complete. And then when it upgrades, you have to deal 2 damage, or you have to deal damage with 2 spells again, and then you set the cost of your hero power to 0. That seems really powerful, actually. Having a 0 mana deal 2 every turn. So it's just, you're slowly, like, making your hero power go god mode, basically.
Excellent wording.
Deal damage with 2 spells again for the, I guess, the final quest line part. And then as a reward, you get the minion. Okay. And the minion, Tavish, is a 5 mana 7/7. For the rest of the game, spells you cast refresh your hero power. So I think there were some pretty good spells in Hunter that could deal damage to face. So I think you're still gonna die in like 2 turns as soon as Tavish is on the field. I think this is going to be a pretty good card. This is like Face Hunter, but infinitely more frustrating to play against.
Okay, so the last sentence you just said really puts this card into perspective. In my opinion, you know, I'm just a humble card game player. This is the worst design card I've ever played against. Polarization of this card is so ridiculous. I don't know if Runeterra, if they have polarization in the game, where in the sense of like, if I just go against this deck, you lose or win. This is the definition of this card. It's like rock, paper, scissors. This card is good.
Astromancer Solarian. 2 mana 3/2, spell damage +1. That seems already really good. Solarian Prime is a 7 mana 7/7, spell damage +1. Battlecry, cast 5 random mage spells. Targets enemies if possible. Does spell damage work if this card casts random spells?
It applies to the spells that cast itself.
I was around during Yogg-Saron, so I'm gonna say this card is very good. That's simple.
This card got really popular in the expansion after Demon Hunter was released because of the deck that Mage had. It turned out, and you know, you might be surprised at this, for a 7 mana 7/7 to cast 5 random mage spells for 7 mana and summon a 7/7 is absolutely ridiculous. To win a game on its own, it was almost like Yogg-Saron in a sense, but it was arguably better because it came down 3 turns faster and you didn't have to cast a bunch of spells for it to actually be good. They nerfed the Prime to 9 mana. Really good card.
Effects like this, I feel like, are always nuts, and then the target's enemies if possible is going to make it that much better. And this is a Shaman card. 3 mana 3/3, Instructor Fireheart. Battlecry, discover a spell that costs 1 or more. If you play it this turn, repeat this effect. I feel like a 3 mana 3/3 is actually maybe good enough to see play on its own. It would be in Runeterra. If you played a 3 mana 3/3 3/3 that would give you a card, that's already pretty good. I feel like if you then play this later on in the game and you can go off with it in a single turn, that seems really good. This seems like just an overall powerful card, no matter how you use it, just because it's always like very positive effect. Seems good.
You wouldn't necessarily play this on 3 mana. 3 mana 3/3 to discover a spell isn't good enough, I would say. I mean, at 10 mana, right? This has the potential to just absolutely pop off and win you the game. Saw play in virtually every single Shaman deck because it was good in an aggressive deck if you couldn't find lethal. It's good in a slower deck if you need to find some cards to actually clear a minion or whatever.
Talon Ring, 5 mana 3/3, neutral, taunt, divine shield, death rattle, draw your highest cost minion. This is kind of giving me like a little bit of like Zilliax flashbacks, because this seems, it's also 5 mana, it's also like taunt, divine shield, and then it draws your highest cost minion. I don't think it's quite as good as Zilliax, because Rush, I imagine, is making a big deal if you have divine shield, but the death rattle draw your highest cost card, and it has taunt, so you have to kill this, so I assume you're always gonna get that highest cost minion. It seems really good.
I don't know about very good, but it definitely was a good card to put into almost any single deck that played for board and needed like a finisher. A lot of the times the game-winning cards in your deck are like high mana cost cards, right? So you could put this in, draw that game-winning card, and then there you go.
I think if this card was in Runeterra, depending on the region, it would potentially be the best card.
Yo, wow, really?
Sheldraz Moontree, 8 mana 5/5, battle cry. The next 3 spells you draw cast when drawn.
When a spell is cast from your deck, you draw an additional card.
Could put this card in a deck in Runeterra. Would it be good?
I think it would absolutely be very, very good. I'm gonna say that if Druid has ways to support this card, it will be a very good card.
Yeah, this card's unplayable.
No way.
So sometimes you would play this card and you would draw 3 really good spells and you could probably just win the game off it. But here's the problem. Druid, in order to get to the late game effect of playing this card, you would have to play lower costed spells. This card potentially could just draw like 3 2-cost mana spells, and that's all it does. And you get a 5/5. Yeah, this card didn't see any play. This expansion that it was released was united in Stormwind with the quest lines, so the metagame was extremely fast. We all thought like the next expansion after this card would see play, but it still just wasn't good enough. Like it never was good enough.
That makes sense. I feel like this card is especially bad if you have any kind of fast or OTK meta. Damn, in Runeterra, I think this card would generally be nuts because you have a region like Freljord, which is good at ramping with units, and then they have a 12 mana spell that like summons 2 champions and sets their stats as 10/10. This card would be insane there.
If you did enjoy this video, please subscribe. I would appreciate it.